What is going on, Rivian fans? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to break it down. Is right now a good time to buy Rivian or not? So I'm going to go over all the stuff you need to know. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And without further ado, let's get right to it. So I'm going to touch on some of the technicals and data points afterwards. But of course, you can't really talk on if Rivian is a buy without really talking about their recent earnings. So when it came down to their recent earnings, their earnings per share was actually considered a beat, but still negative $1.73 per share. And of course, it goes to show that they are burning through a lot of cash. And when it comes down to, for instance, their revenues and cost of revenue, that was considerably lower than expected. So once again, I think there was some positives, negatives in that regard, but from an analyst viewpoint, I think that there was less dependency on earnings per share and revenue this quarter than what it might be in the following quarters. And all analysts really wanted to hear was their 2023 targets. And when it came down to their targets, Rivian did in fact say 50,000 vehicles per year. That's what they're expected to deliver. But once again, shame on them for kind of doing a 100% year over year increase in that regard, but still shame on them because analysts were expecting 60. So in that regard, this is where it was very much negative that prompted a very big sell-off. That's where people said, well, their 2023 isn't as good as what they were assuming. They're burning through a lot of cash, blah, blah, blah. This is where a lot of good value investors like myself bought the dip very, very much. And of course, I did buy in, I think 600 shares at $15.98. So I didn't catch the bottom per se, but I did very much see this as a very big overreaction. So funny enough, though, a couple days after, they did come out with this. So Rivian told staff that production of 62,000 units is planned for the year. So of course, this is where it prompted Rivian to go up 7.76% on Friday because of this tentative new news. But even if you take that whole 62,000 out of the mix and just factor in only 50, generally speaking, I think that is a pretty good amount. Considering the economic condition that we are in right now, I think 50 is fairly good. So once again, that's just my own interpretation, who isn't a financial advisor, of course. But generally speaking, I think even leading up until the earnings, it was at and could be considered a very substantial discount. So again, what are analysts saying? Because it's one thing for it to go down as much as it did, but what are analysts truly saying? So I'll give you a good overview of that. And I just want to quickly show you here. So based on the Morningstar report, the latest one, it does show that Rivian's fair market value is $39.64. So once again, just factor that in. That might be something, might be nothing. But what are analysts saying? So based on analyst ratings recently, incorporating their recent earnings, and keep in mind, all of these were 3 days ago, meaning that they're factoring in this 50,000, not that 62. So just be aware that there might be a couple changes coming down the pipeline, but a lot of these analysts are very much optimistic on Rivian. So as you can see, there is 50, 26, 28, there is a 16, but keep in mind, 𝗪𝗏𝗧𝗛, whatever his name is, he only has a 39% success rating. So once again, maybe he is very much wrong a lot of the time, but out of all of this, a lot of analysts are very, very much optimistic on and bullish on Rivian, because a lot of the individuals saw past all the BS, all the tentative sell-off, and realized, well, 50,000 vehicles a year is still very, very good. And of course, if you are looking, for instance, at their earnings per share and revenue, it still is technically growing. So just not at the fast a rate that analysts are expecting, but it still is growing. And that's kind of what you want to see, generally speaking. So like I said, that's just my own interpretation and clearly what analysts are seeing. But what is the other data point saying? So this is all the transactions so far that did occur, for instance, on Friday on the secondary market. So there was some big money buying. So 2.36 million, 1.05 million. You can even see right here 16.2 million as well. So a lot of big money behind the scenes was very much willing to buy up the dip. Even when it comes down to the secondary market, there was a huge amount of transactions that was occurring. So again, you guys make your own determination based on that. And as well, I like to talk on options because of course options don't necessarily move the price, but it is actually a pretty good sentiment. So this is all the options activity that did occur from Friday. A lot of calls being purchased, and then there is these couple at least, but this in particular is $1.24 million worth of calls. That is huge. Clearly someone is anticipating a good upside potential coming with Rivian. So once again, I do feel that also does validate that it is at a substantial discount and aka is a good buying opportunity. I want to bring this up as well. So this is updated information as of Q4 2022. Hedge funds did purchase 10.45 million call options just in Q4. And there was 33.04 million call options that was purchased by all 13 filers. That is absolutely huge because, and like I said, this also does validate the fact that there was a lot of upside anticipated in Q4 leading up until the earnings. So even in Q4, Rivian could be seen as a very discounted stock per se. And before I get into the technicals and so forth, I just want to bring this up. I like to talk on short interest, not necessarily because Rivian's going to have a short squeeze, but clearly these are the individuals betting against Rivian or whatever stock is out there. But for instance, as you can see on Friday, they increased 1.95 million shares. 6.88 is the short interest, which is a percentage of the free float. 41.21 million shares overall is being shorted, and cost to borrow is absolutely pennies. So in reality, Rivian isn't going to have a squeeze, but they are very much doubtful about this whole kind of rally that did happen on Friday. So once again, let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. But when it comes down to the technicals, what are the technicals saying? Well, because of this tentative sell-off and over the past little bit and the economic conditions that we've been in, so rising interest rates and various things, so it is also anticipated on March the 22nd that the Feds are going to be raising at or 50 basis points. So once again, that's kind of adding a lot of fear to the market. But the technicals aren't as bullish as all the other data points like I mentioned. So in general, I think it's just been following the broader market and a lot of growth stocks as well. So of course, I think that is taking a big toll on it. Like I said, causing it to be considered at a very substantial discount. But at the end of the day, I personally do feel that this is one of those great opportunities years from now. When you look back, you'll wish that you did buy more. Of course, short term, as you can see, does suck. Technicals do show and represent it as a little bit more of a negative right now, but a lot of long-term mentality individuals and institutions are seeing bigger picture Rivian. So upside potential is anticipated. And as well, just to give you a good viewpoint on this, so stochastic is currently at 21, which is considered very oversold. But you do see a deviation, so red line above the black, so a little bit more of a bullish sentiment behind the scenes. Number of retail investors have been getting in ever since it looks like March the 1st, but bigger picture, they've been kind of getting out ever since looks like February the 8th. But generally speaking, like I said, I personally do feel that this is a very good time to buy, clearly enough so that I did. But there might be a little bit more of a downward trend right now because, like I said, with a little bit more of an overreaction, that might be a good buying opportunity to potentially flip. But you can't really ignore the technicals right now, and the technicals are pointing to a little bit more of a continuation of a downtrend. So, of course, I'm not a financial advisor, like I already said, so make sure you guys do your own due diligence. Let me know in the comments below if you feel that this is a very good time to buy. Potentially, where do you see things going? Do you agree with a lot of these analysts as well? On a side note, if you do like a lot of this analyst ratings and so forth, you can open up a new account with Interactive Brokers, link in the description below. It's very free to do so. So oddly enough, a lot of people pay to see tip ranks, but at the end of the day, you can get it free with Interactive Brokers. So make sure you pop over in my description below or also the comments and you can take a look at that. But generally speaking, analysts are very much optimistic about Rivian behind the scenes. So are you as optimistic as them or not? So let me know your thoughts on all of that in the comments below. If you do like my Rivian content, want to support the channel, take a look at my memberships, link in the description below, or just hit the join button at the bottom of the screen. With that said, appreciate you guys watching. Let's all make a lot of money on Rivian.